609-390-3907 or visit broadleaf.net. Manhattan Bagel. Looking for a quick snack or a full meal? Easy to use menu, customize how you like, place your order, and sit back. ManhattanBagel.com has you covered. Start fresh, fast, order online for pickup and delivery. Clean Lines Painting. For a quality job, remember the name, CleanLinesPaint.com. And Kindle Auto Plaza, the area's best selection of Ford, Lincoln, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Wagoneer. Off exit 10 on the Parkway on Stone Harbor Boulevard. Call 609-465-5000 or KindleAutoplaza.com.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses from Town Square Media, South Jersey.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him! It's a sack!
Sixers.
Oh, baby!
And Flyers. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition of Game Night, the final football Friday of the NFL season with the Super Bowl this Sunday. Of course, you can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Super Bowl coverage this Sunday begins at 5 p.m. And in less than 20 minutes from now, we'll dig deeper into the Super Bowl with the football scientist. Yes, Casey Joyner. You usually hear him on the Sports Bash every week, every NFL season. But he's going to make a special appearance right here on Game Night tonight with Mike Gill at Super Bowl Radio Row and the crazy schedule they have out there. Casey was kind enough to join us an hour later here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to the Super Bowl plus some thoughts on the Eagles. Also, I do have some thoughts on what we saw last night because the Flyers won their second straight game coming out of the All-Star break. But before we get to any of that, along with your texts at 609-403-0973 and your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle, I wanted to bring to you guys who maybe you don't get to listen to the Sports Bash all day like I do because I'm here working, right? Maybe you're tuning in just after 6 o'clock. But I wanted to touch on the top of the show about Britton Covey. And Britton Covey it was a very incredibly insightful conversation that he had with Mike Gill and Scott Grayson yesterday. And Britton Covey is among the Eagle players who are making the rounds at this year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas. It's him and Fletcher Cox, Devonta Smith. A lot of the Eagle players are out there. Well, there are some idiots at a Philadelphia radio station that have decided to blow what Covey said about the team out of proportion. And it's people like that in other media outlets who don't respect this microphone, who don't appreciate the job that they have, and they're willing to trash somebody just because they got a big platform and they think that there's going to be no repercussions for their actions. But I'm here to tell you that Britton Covey did not throw his team under the bus. He is not whatever people are trying to say about him online. He was honest. And a perfect example of that is what he said about Nick Sirianni. Because, there's been a lot of questions about what kind of person Nick Sirianni is as a head coach. And this is what Covey said yesterday on the Sports Bash.
I saw that question that was asked him, like, what's your role as a head coach? It's like, are you serious? What's his role as a head coach? Like, he does everything, he's involved in every little thing. You have to be a great communicator, which he is. That's honestly one of his strong suits. He's a great communicator. It's funny, like when we're winning, how emotional he is a good thing. When we're losing, he's too emotional. No, he's authentic to him, which I really like.
That's one of the big takeaways for me from yesterday's conversation. Because listen, we could talk about what he said about the offense and his perspective how the year ended. But what he said on Nick Sirianni right there, I think, is the real story of this week. You look at the Super Bowl, and you have two guys who are, like Nick Sirianni, authentically themselves. Andy Reid cannot win any other way except for he knows how. And the guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame one day because he's had this career that he did his best to stay true to himself. And did he make mistakes in Philadelphia? Yes. But did he learn from those mistakes when he went to Kansas City? Also, yes. Did you know that Kyle Shanahan was 0-36? 0-36 when his team was down 8 points heading into a fourth quarter? And now the 49ers have won 2 straight games when losing games heading into the fourth quarter. Kyle Shanahan, for better or for worse, stuck to his guns with Brock Purdy. The organization traded away their top pick, Trey Lance, because of Brock Purdy. And now this coach, who's staying true to himself, is back in the Super Bowl for the third time and the second time as a head coach. I think that we as sports fans often make the mistake of taking our own personal experiences and our own perspectives and trying to project it on the other people. And while I can blame the players and Sirianni for 100 different things, I'm glad that Sirianni is authentic to himself and that he's real and that he's genuine, because I think that as a society, we have gotten way too out of whack when it comes to how we evaluate people. We have allowed people, I'll say individuals, who speak very loudly and very aggressively to dominate the narratives of other people. And instead of listening to the people who work with a Nick Sirianni, we let individuals who are not in the Eagles locker room, individuals who are on the outside looking in, be the end all be all for our discussions. And I think that's wrong. Now, look, it doesn't make Sirianni a better coach. I still hate the way the season ended. I still blame the Eagles for letting that team end the year the way they did. And look, Fletcher Cox, when he said this the other day to Mike Gill in the Sports Bash, this is the problem with the Eagles.
I was sad for some time because I really just could never put my finger on like what went wrong, and it's frustrating when you can't put your finger on what went wrong or, things that maybe I could have done better, as a leader, as a player, as a teammate. I still to this day really don't know what went wrong.
And this, when Britton Covey said, is not good either.
We ran the same offense in our Super Bowl year. So Nick Sirianni's offense that wasn't the problem. The problem was adjusting to how teams played us.
Those are two separate problems. But it doesn't change the fact that the Eagles have gone to the postseason 3 straight years with Nick Sirianni, and that the organization is trying to fix the problem. And for me, that's where I am with the Eagles. I see that this team is doing their best to rectify the fact that they didn't make adjustments, as Britton Covey said, to actually put their finger on the problem, as Fletcher Cox said, he can't place his finger on the exact problem. The reality is that everything went wrong. And, when Vic Fangio was hired and Chris Long made this comment on his podcast, and I'm going to play this audio with the additional caveat of what Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast reported. If you didn't hear Jeff talk about this on the Sports Bash, Jeff said that Sean Desai had it was an incredible disconnect with the players. And it was explained by Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan that sometimes a guy can be so smart that he's unable to communicate what he needs the players to do properly. And he's not a good coach. He's just really smart. And when the Eagles hired Vic Fangio, Chris Long was very complimentary of the Fangio hiring, but he also said something else about the former coaches in the Eagles building.
I think they nailed this hire.
He's a shadow.
Because he's got an elder statesman in the building who can actually, it's like having a second head coach in the building. That
Have
helps.
an Obi-Wan.
That helps, dude. I can remember, certain coaches having former head coaches come back in the building. If it's the wrong former head coach, you can the whole thing up.
That part at the end, it can mess everything up. I have to wonder how much of last year's problems, and the players are trying so hard to not throw people under the bus. But I just have to wonder how much of it was something that the Eagles should have seen coming, and they were just completely unable to stop once the train got rolling. And I think the Sean Desai issue imploded this team. I think the change to Patricia made things worse. And they had to hit the reset button this offseason. They had to get rid of Brian Johnson. They had to get rid of the whole defensive coaching staff. They had to do something to say to everyone, what you saw this past year was unacceptable. Josh Hennig here on GameNight 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. We're going to dig deeper into the Super Bowl coming up in just a couple of minutes with Casey Joyner from The Athletic, the football scientist. But there was some big news that came out about the Super Bowl that I've been waiting for this news. And I'm telling you right now, I'm just telling you guys right now, this may be, and maybe I'm reacting too much to it, but this news may be the biggest item of all moving forward. Joe Thuney, the all-pro guard for the Chiefs, is out. And I think this is a massive part of the game coming up on Sunday. The 49ers have a really good pass rush. And where I've been conflicted all week is on the over-under. Because I can see this game being low scoring and I can see it being high scoring. And I saw the Chiefs have a low scoring game with the Ravens and a higher scoring game with the Bills. And I just, as I process now Thuney being out, I'm starting to question, are the Chiefs going to be able to stop the 49ers pass rush if the 49ers pass rush is on point? One of the comments that we talked about earlier was about the Eagles and the 49ers have something in common in back-to-back years in the Super Bowl. It's the fact that both the 49ers and the Eagles were the best rosters on the field. And I agree with that commentary. But in many ways, the Eagles lost the game last year more than the Chiefs won it. If the 49ers don't mess up like the Eagles did last year, why should we discount them just because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are on the other side of the field? Well, that's Casey Joyner coming up on the other side. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. Producer Nick Earnshaw joins me in the studio. I just returned from Las Vegas at Radio Row. I'll tell you all about it, plus play interviews with some former players and sportscasters. Brought to you by the John R. Elliott Hero Campaign for Designated Drivers, Litz's Market of Ocean City, Captain Chucky Cecile. Plus, I finally caught up with the sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan. We'll play that conversation and talk with Stanley Cup winning head coach Craig Berube. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Booking Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Total by Verizon is wireless that goes all in for you. That means unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon, priced by us at $25 a line for 4 lines on the unlimited plan. And as always, no contracts. Sounds pretty hard to beat, but all in is all in. So we added international calling to fill the year with more, hey girl, because it can't be total unless it's all in. Find a store and exclusive deals at totalbyverizon.com. Monthly rate when you activate with autopay discount beginning the month after you enroll plus taxes and fees. Additional restrictions apply. See website for data management practices and full terms.
Champion Exteriors. Champion, the one you call first. Voted best of the best in Jersey Shores. For roofing and siding, windows and doors. 24-month financing, no payments, no interest. You're certified GAF elite contractors. Champion Dutch Exteriors.com. Champion Exteriors. Champion, the one you call first.
If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the biggest contribution match of any IRA on the market. Sign up for Robinhood Gold at Robinhood.com/boost by April 30th. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Match on transfers subject to additional terms and conditions. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
Huh, I do make everything about me.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
My passport is in the pocket of the duffel bag I took to Mexico.
At Mattress Firm, we know the right mattress matters. We also know that price does too. So if you see a lower price somewhere else, we'll match it. Plus, you get free and fast delivery. Shop in-store or online at mattressfirm.com. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
Big news! Bennett Chevy is celebrating President's Day all month long. All month, we're selling new Chevys at the GM supplier employee price. Not a penny more. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Yes, that's right. At Bennett Chevy, you get both, which could save you over 10%. That's thousands more in your pocket. Ask yourself, what other dealer gives you an offer this good? Nobody. That too. Plus, there's available 1.9% financing. Hold on, there's more. Bennett is paying a mind-blowing minimum $10,000 for any old junker you can drive or tow our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. To be clear, 10 grand is the bare minimum. Now imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. One more thing. First time at Bennett, you're in for a treat. Unlike other dealers, our non-commissioned sales team isn't paid on how much you spend. They're rewarded based on your satisfaction. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Okay, 3 more climbers, 7 loggers.
Ted's sustainably sourced logging company is growing a new branch.
What about truck driver contracts?
Which means a new HR manager will be the first hire to fall.
Then we'll need to staff up the warehouse.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card to dine like a rock star at Gin Ricky's, the Roy Social Hall, and Wild Honey Barbecue for just $25. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. Let the fun be gin.
This great deal is on sale now at seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll check out the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. Jeff from Ocean City. We'll get to you and more coming up a little bit later in the hour. But right now, the football scientist, Casey Joyner from The Athletic, is joining us. We can't go a week and not talk to Casey Joyner about the big game of the year. Casey, appreciate you jumping on a little hour later than you usually jump on. How you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to an awesome game. Can't believe it's just a couple days away. It's like this week has flown by.
It really has. I want to start with the news that came out basically like 30 minutes ago, which is Joe Thuney is going to be out. He has been ruled out for this game. And this is kind of like the breaking point for me, Casey, because to me, if he would be able to play, I think I feel a little more confident in Kansas City winning this game or it being a high scoring game. But now I'm getting a little nervous. And part of it is because, let me give you a little background. So I talked to Paul Gunther, the former defensive coordinator, earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me that, Nick Allegretti is a great run blocking guard, but he's not the pass blocker that Thuney is. So there's this part of my mind that keeps like saying to me, guess what? The 49ers have a great pass rush. So could the Thuney being out and Allegretti being in be what maybe breaks Kansas City in this game?
The best quote I've ever heard from Andy Reid is years ago, he told John Clayton, probably only half jokingly, that if he could throw on every single down, he would. And you've heard me say this before. I mean, it's just, he wants to throw the football, but he will run the ball if he has to, if the situation calls for it, if a personnel situation calls for it, if the game situation calls for it. So if he's got a situation where it's a quandary for him, though, because San Francisco, okay, let's say he said, I want to go ahead and run the football. Okay, I mean, San Francisco gave up 318 rushing yards in the playoffs so far. So if he wants to run the ball, okay, he's got Pacheco, he's got CEH, he's got the ability to be able to do it if he wants to lean on the ground game. The thing is, as weak as the 49ers run defense has been, Andy's going to sit there and go, he's looking at those cornerbacks. He's looking at Ambry Thomas. And Ambry Thomas, he's been okay somewhat of late, but earlier this year, he was one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. Just his coverage metrics were atrocious over a significant stretch, over like 4, 5, 6 games. He was really bad. And Andy's going to want to do that. So I'm curious that if the loss of Thuney might push Andy to say, I need to run the ball more, because that sounds like what he ought to do. Because if you try and trap back with a subpar pass blocker against a subpar interior pass blocker, no less, against San Francisco, they'll run people at that all game long, and they'll cause Mahomes some problems.
You talked about the 318 rush yards allowed for San Francisco, Casey. Why is that? Why is the team with this quality of defensive player? It's not the cornerback's fault you just mentioned that can't stop the run, right? So it's like, is it because is this the way Steve Wilkes is calling it? Is it because there's a schematic issue? Like how does a team this talented give up 318 rush yards?
They make mistakes. They try to be aggressive on defense. They try to do things in coverage. They can try and be aggressive on defense. And when it comes to run defense, and as a defensive coordinator, when it comes to solid run defense, you kind of need to be boring, meaning that you guys just need to be in the gaps. You guys need to be shedding blocks. If they're not shedding blocks, they're making tackles. If they do get good blocking against you, you need to keep the gains down to a minimum. If they get good blocking, 6-7 yards, and stop it there. It's all the metric studies have done over years have said that. But they get out of position. They get moved in places they ought not be. They get to be too aggressive. They leave their gaps. And if you have smart backs, they'll be able to take advantage of it. And Kansas City has smart, well-coached backs. So I would expect that's another thing Andy is. I'm very curious to see. I'd love to find out how Andy Reid's going about this, because you only have so much play calling time that you could spend during a week. There's so many resources you can devote to that. And with San Francisco not stopping the run as well as they have and making mistakes, Andy could do a lot of things to say, hey, I'm going to do things to shift around and get you out of position, make you chase ghost you ought not to be chasing to open up the ground game, or he could do it in the passing game. I won't be surprised if he doesn't in the ground game, because he's been doing that a lot this year, but it'd be curious to see. But that's the problem, is if San Francisco gets out of position, and I'll bet Andy's going to test that.
Talk with Casey Joyner from The Athletic, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Casey, when you think about, because you mentioned Andy Reid, we know his history of 2 weeks preparation, right? Coming off bye weeks, preparing for Super Bowls now. I mean, this guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. We all know that.
Yeah.
But why do you think Andy is so good in this scenario?
You're giving him time to identify what the other team's weaknesses are. You're giving him extra time to say, hey, this is what I could do. And the thing is he's got a set of things. Okay, this is what he's going to do in a general sense of here's how I'm going to attack a team by a standard amount of time. If he has an additional amount of time, he can now start to get even more tailored, and the team can spend time practicing for it too. Because you may have the idea that, hey, I want to do this in the game plan. I want to make this sort of creative move. I want to do this sort of creative thing. If you don't have time to practice it and get it right in practice, kind of, you really can't put it in the game unless you feel comfortable having practiced it. So I think that's a big part of it too. And again, it gives him time to go. And that's another thing too. One of Andy's things will be, and all great coaches do this, and he follows in this from play callers, is that you'll do one thing in the game plan to set up another. So you'll call a particular running play that's going to look this way. Later in the game, you're going to run it and you throw off it, but they have to look alike. And coaches talk about this all the time, that you have to make those plays look, and you have to make a complementary run play off the pass play. So when he gets an opportunity like this, it allows him, because essentially you have to prepare. I won't say he had to prepare 2 plays, but essentially you do. He can do this and say, hey, I want to look for this situation and this situation and this situation, and I compare these plays together. Allows him to just get deeper into his playbook. And it's a tough thing for Wilkes, and it's a tough thing for San Francisco. That's why I think San Francisco is going to have to get into a lead in this game and turn this into a shootout, because I think that would make Andy more one-dimensional and help them out.
Casey, when you think about, you mentioned San Francisco, this team has had a lot of trouble winning games when they're losing over the years under Kyle Shanahan. But all of a sudden, here comes Brock Purdy, and they come from behind, they beat the Packers, and they come from behind and they beat the Lions. So do you think that Brock Purdy is the difference for Kyle Shanahan in a big game like this?
Yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan coaches his quarterbacks to not take chances. Remember that one play in the Detroit game? I think it was in the third quarter, and Purdy throws this ball back across the middle. And when you first see it, like, oh God, no way, this has to be intercepted. And it got caught. Ayuk made this great catch on it. It was he had to make a fantastic catch to get it, but he got it. I don't think Garoppolo makes that play. I think that when Shanahan, he says he'll coach them not to do that. And I think Purdy just sometimes gets out there and says, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And kind of when you're behind, that might be what you have to do, is take those chances. That there's the Dr. Z quote. He used to say the difference between Roger Staubach and Danny White is that Roger Staubach, when he'd see that things were down, he'd be like, he just ignore it and go about his way. He said Danny White, when the apocalypse comes, Danny White's got his basement's packed full of stuff. He's fully prepared. He knows that we can't make it. And he says, if you're have got that mindset that you can't win, okay, well, your team's going to pick up on that. Purdy doesn't know he can't win. And I think that's a big difference, that he's going to do things that Shanahan probably wouldn't call for. And that it makes him make the big plays when in those situations that can break the mold of what Shanahan does, because he tries to play percentages, and sometimes you can't do that when you get in those situations. You just got to go for it.
When you talk about going for it, as I said, Shanahan's been in the situation before. Matt Ryan, Jimmy G, they had leads in both of those games. So what do you think Shanahan has to learn from those losses to avoid the repeat of history?
I think Shanahan's game plan for this will be very simple. San Francisco's 15-0 this year when they score 24 more points. They're 0-5 when they don't. Kansas City's only allowed 24 points 3 times. One of them a couple weeks ago against Buffalo. They're 1-2. That was their only win. Kansas City doesn't get into shootout games anymore. Andy doesn't want to get them into shootout games anymore. In fact, I'll throw another metric at you to here. I'm calling a shootout game, by the way, a game where each team is scoring 24 or more points. For the past 5 seasons, the Chiefs have a 30-14 record when they're in shootouts. 30-14, pretty good, but 58-13 when they're in non-shootouts. And they were 45-7 in non-shootouts in 2018 to 2022. They're not as good in non-shootouts this year, and they try to avoid shootouts altogether. I think Andy knows I can't win shootout games anymore. I don't have the offense to do it, and San Francisco has to win a shootout. So I think if you're Kyle Shanahan, the mode is score points, keep scoring points, and if you get ahead, just go for it and be aggressive and get after it. I don't want to be Dan Campbell this year and be really foolish about it. If they get a lead, keep the pressure on. keep the pressure on, fine. And if you got to go kick a field goal, kick a field goal. That was Campbell's problem. That's why the Lions aren't in the Super Bowl. But if you're the Niners, get ahead and then kick those field goals, get to 30, get to 35, get something of that nature. Because if you get in the 30s, I just don't think Kansas City can keep up.
So if Kansas City can't keep up, just going with that for a minute, because that's interesting. Because most people, Casey, would say, well, they got Mahomes, they got Travis Kelce. But there's the other side of the coin, which is, and I'm not trying to diminish anything, but you could argue that the Ravens lost the AFC Championship as much as the Chiefs won it. So are the Chiefs really invincible, or is it just an illusion?
People have trouble believing in Shanahan and Purdy. Purdy's making a lot of mistakes in the playoffs, and they have trouble believing that Shanahan can win. I think that's why, even though the Niners have been favored, I think I was reading something today, one of my old editors, ESPN, he talked to somebody at one of the books who said that the money line money is just coming in big on Kansas City, and even the points spread money too. People just think Kansas City's going to win this game, even without the points. I'm just like, I'm not seeing it that way. Like it's that dominant. Like, why would you think Kansas City is this dominant? Because Kansas City's got another problem. I mentioned the 24 more points. San Francisco, when they scored 24 fewer points, they had 15 giveaways in those 5 games. So 5 games, they scored 24 fewer points. They win none of them. They had 3 or more giveaways in 3 of those contests. So in the other 2, and they lost those games, by the way, big, by 14, and 5 points. So Kansas City would do well if they could do that. But in 49ers, if you give them only one, if you get one takeaway, it's really a lot tougher. Spagnuolo's defense. In the last 11 games, Kansas City forced 3 takeaways once, posted 1 takeaway 5 times, and had 0 takeaways in 5 contests. This is just not a team that in most of their games, they're giving 1 or 0 takeaways. If Kansas City doesn't get more than 1 takeaway in this game, and that's what they get, and mind you, Mahomes has had his highest interception rate of his career this year. He's forcing passes into coverage because he doesn't have great receivers, and he's got to do that to try and make plays. If they lose the turnover battle, or even if it's even in the turnover battle, you've got to win the turnover battle, beat San Francisco. And Spagnuolo's defense is good at that in the first half of the year. They've been terrible at it of late. And I know Baltimore was one part of it, but Baltimore's playing a game that they don't usually play. Baltimore went past Central like you were just talking about. I don't think San Francisco makes that same mistake. And if they don't, Kansas City doesn't win the turnover battle. I know Purdy makes mistakes, but I think it's going to be a problem for Kansas City if they don't take advantage of every single one of those mistakes, because Purdy's also good there are a lot of times when he doesn't make mistakes.
All right, Casey, before I let you go, I got to know who you think's going to win the game and why.
I think that San Francisco is I think it's going to help them with the turnover advantage. I think that even if Purdy makes mistakes, Mahomes makes mistakes too. And I think that's going to be a big part of it. You talked about the offensive line issues. That's a big thing. I think and Kansas City's allowed 100 or more rushing yards 14 times this year. Kyle Shanahan is if he's not the best run play call in the league, he's second to Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel learned from him. So I think Shanahan's going to go after that big time. And I keep thinking about look at the 49ers. They got McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle. I mean, you've got those caliber players. Kelsey's not as good. He's okay. Let's put him in that category. He didn't have a great year. Who else? Rashee Rice, sure. Once you get past that, it just doesn't. You don't have you can't rely on those players quite to the same extent that you could. And I know they've got a good run game, but again, 49ers can match them probably better because the 49ers have more depth, I think, in the run game. So I'm adding it up. I'm just seeing more factors, more paths to win for San Francisco. So Parcells said if you play the game 10 times, how often you win? I think San Francisco played a game 10 times. They win it 6 out of 10. So I'm taking them.
Casey Joyner at KCTFS on the Twitter X platform. Casey, tell folks what you're doing for the Super Bowl this week.
We're working on the live blog at The Athletic. Actually, we'll be starting posting probably around 2 or 3 o'clock. Again, I think it's 2 o'clock. We start posting all kinds of insights all day. Well, a bunch of our staffers will be on there too, but you'll see a bunch of comments from me I'll be posting things from a gambling perspective, from a number of other perspectives, giving you all kinds of statistical insights, and throughout the game too, doing some updated statistical analysis throughout the contest. If you want to keep up on that sort of thing, just check it out, The Athletic. You'll be able to go there and just click on the live blog starting Sunday mornings when they'll start running. So take a look.
Casey Joyner, the football scientist. Appreciate you jumping on an hour later than usual to talk some football. Enjoy the game, and I'm sure you'll be talking with Mike Gill about it next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sia. All right, coming up on the other side, we have a spontaneous guest coming up on the other side. before I give you some of my picks for the Super Bowl. For those of you who know, I'm a big MMA guy. I've covered MMA for years, and one of the biggest MMA events is coming up February 24th, and we will talk with one of the fighters, the former two-time Olympic gold medalist and three-time, three different division boxing champion, Claressa Shields, will join us on the other side here on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers Hawks tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey well beyond the arc for three. It's good. He ties it. Maxey with another three.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball.
Here's Furkan with a breakout. Oh, yeah, reverse jam. Court loss, twist, turns, dumps it.
97.3 ESPN.
Here in New Jersey, it's one wow after another, after another, after another. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. You could spend an entire week at the American Dream Mega Mall in East Rutherford and still not do everything. From luxury shopping to world-class dining, from the largest indoor water park in North America to the largest indoor theme park in the Western Hemisphere, year-round indoor skiing and snowboarding, aquarium, ice rink, special events, and so much more. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey, little state, lot of wow.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Football's biggest game day is finally here. Total Wine and More is ready with spirits and beer. With thousands of options, our selection can't be beat. And our prices are the lowest, no store can compete. Only at Total Wine and More.
Drink responsibly, B21. Okay, 3 more climbers, 7 loggers.
Ted's sustainably sourced logging company is growing a new branch.
What about truck driver contracts?
Which means a new HR manager will be the first hire to fall.
Then we'll need to staff up the warehouse.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
I do make everything about me.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
That meeting could have been an email.
It's the President's Day sale at Mattress Firm. Save up to $500 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets and get a $300 gift toward pillows and more, all with free and fast delivery. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Do you love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smoker's Haven. With 5 New Jersey locations, Smoker's Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like Ashton, My Father's, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, and more. All from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. All locations are fully open. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. See all they have and their locations at smokershavennj.com.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's BABBEL.com.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matte Black Kia.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
As promised, a special guest joining us. She is the greatest women's boxer of all time, Claressa Shields. She is back in the PFL. And you remember, folks, a few years ago, I was covering Claressa Shields here in Atlantic City with the PFL, and now she is back again for the biggest night of champions, PFL versus Bellator. She will be part of all the action in Saudi Arabia. She joins us right now on the phone line. Champ, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I want to get in touch with you because this is not just a big night of champions, but you yourself are this great champion, Olympic gold medalist, multiple division championships. And you are doing one of the most impressive things that people are not giving enough credit for. You could have not kept fighting in MMA. You could have not kept competing. But you are basically telling the world, I don't care what you think of me. I am still achieving greatness.
Yeah, MMA is something that I want to do to challenge myself. I wanted to show the world that I'm not afraid to come into a new sport that is new. It's way different than boxing, even though I'm the best at, I'm the best at boxing. So MMA, I just wanted to show that, hey, I can learn a few things and that I have potential in it. And I'm not scared of you guys. I'm not scared of any MMA fighters. I don't know why they feel like I should be, but I'm not. And I actually embrace the fact that, some of these high-level girls want to fight me in MMA because it's like, you guys feel threatened and intimidated already, but you guys just wait and give me a little bit of time, then you're really going to be scared.
Now, I know you said previously that you wanted to fight Amanda Nunes in a boxing match at the previous press conference. For you, is that still something that you would like to see down the road, or are you trying to do more in the MMA world this year?
I want to do MMA and boxing this year now. Against Amanda Nunes, she's retired and everything, but I would still love to fight against her in the boxing ring because she has such great hands. I've also called out Chris Cyborg for a fight in boxing, and she has all these weight requirements. Oh, you need to come to 147, and you need to do this and do that. And me and Chris walk around the same weight. So why do I have to well, she walks around a little bit smaller than me, but just a little bit. But it's like, bro, we can both meet at 154 where we're both comfortable and we don't have to lose no weight and we can fight. But, all these girls have all their reasons. But this year I plan on fighting February 24th, which is in 2 weeks in Saudi Arabia. And then I want to have 2 boxing matches and possibly a fight at the end of the year or beginning of the year 2025.
Yeah, the lightweight showcase bout, Claressa Shields versus Kelsey DeSantis, part of the massive PFL versus Bellator champion versus championship pay-per-view, and DAZN is where you can get those fights. Let me ask you, Claressa, because, for you are also fighting in Saudi Arabia, and this is Black History Month. So for someone such as yourself, what does it mean to you this month to be on this card in Saudi Arabia on this big stage?
I mean, I'm just humbled. I believe that as far as in my star power, that I'm one of the people on a card that has some of the most star power. But the champions that are fighting are such great champions that they deserve this platform and they deserve to fight against each other and just decide who's the best. Who's the one. So it's just my job. I want to go over there and represent for the women. And hopefully in Saudi Arabia, after they see me fight, they will want to, they'll be okay with their women getting into sports and even MMA and just letting them have more freedom.
I think it's so important what you brought up because it's the fact that, you want to show young women what they can accomplish. And it's not just about you're standing for more than just yourself and your accomplishments. You're standing for the future of the sport as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think women's sports all over the world is facing inequality, but in Saudi Arabia, them as women are facing inequality in sports and every other way of life also. So I feel like with them having me fight in Saudi Arabia, that they're taking a step in the right direction, and that they may, start giving their women more rights, because to me, equality is essential.
Claressa, before I let you go, I want to ask you, because, this year is also another Olympic year. Talk about for a moment, as an Olympic gold medalist, as someone who has done every sport now, every stage of the game, what does it mean for you to look at the Olympics and see it going on and say, I did that, I accomplished that as well?
The Olympics was a highlight of my life as a child and as a grown woman. I went there when I was 17, won my first Olympic gold medal, won my second gold medal when I was 21, Rio in Brazil. I can say that to me, sports just bring unity. Like the Olympics bring unity. Like that's one of the times where you don't really hear too much about race and cultural differences and, inequalities and stuff like that. It's just who is the best athlete in the world, and I just always enjoyed that. And I still enjoy that as I watch others compete. And just knowing that, at that time and period, especially in the Olympics, that when you win a gold medal, you are the best at whatever it is you're doing. And that is such a highlight of anybody's career. And I've been blessed to be able to have that feeling twice. Blessed and lucky, I guess, but definitely blessed 100% to experience that twice. And it's definitely a feeling that I don't get. I mean, I want to say once in a lifetime, but it's a twice in a lifetime thing for me. So it's something that's hard to accomplish, but it just kind of lives with you forever, the moment, and also how the moment touched others. Like, to me winning the Olympics brought my family and my friends and everybody closer, made everybody believe in themselves, especially being where we're from, that, hey, yeah, we're from Flint, but we can still be successful. We can still be the best in the world. We can go out there and chase our dreams and not limit ourselves. Like, we can do that, so the Olympics is just very special, and it'll always be special.
Love it. Claressa Shields, she is the greatest women's boxer of all time, and now she's trying to become the greatest women's fighter of all time. And part of that journey is going to be on February 24th, the pay-per-view on ESPN Plus into Zone, the mega event, Bellator, PFL, the showdown. She will be on the fight card, and she joined us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Claressa, I appreciate you calling in. Best of luck with the fight, but I don't think you need a lot of luck, because I know what kind of hard worker you are, okay?
I will take the luck because of MMA, so thank you so much.
Absolutely. Claressa Shields joining us here. She called in from Radio Row out there in Las Vegas. Thanks to Mike Gale and for my friend Tony Cox for hooking us up with that conversation here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. All right. As promised, get to the text board at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Jeff from Ocean City. We'll get to his text first. Actually, I got to turn back around because see this, you messed me up, Jeff in Ocean City. You moved your text around in the queue, so I lost track of your first text. He says, I'm expecting a high-scoring, entertaining Super Bowl on Sunday while eating wings and chili. Also, what are your best prop bets? I think Andy plus Pat is greater than Kyle versus Brock. Simple math. Listen, Jeff, I hear what you're saying about Andy and Pat. I just think that I can't get past the fact that there is some good fortune going for the Chiefs, some good mojo, whatever you want to call it. You heard Claressa Shields say at the end there, she'll take the luck in MMA because sometimes you need it in MMA. And it's an amazing turn of events that, you look around and you see a fighter like Claressa Shields and say, look, I don't have this success. And she's one of the best fighters in the world, right? Without some luck, being blessed, And you hear these pro athletes always talk about, I'm blessed. I'm grateful to be here. I thank the Lord. I thank my friends, thank my family, because it's so hard to win. And I can't get past the fact that if the Ravens and the Eagles played better, they could have beaten the Chiefs the last couple of years. So I don't think it's as simple as Andy plus Pat is greater than Kyle versus Brock. Because remember, Kyle had the lead, 20-10 in the Super Bowl about 4 years ago, and the 49ers defense choked away the lead and came all the way back and won. And somehow Robert Saleh still got a head coaching job. 609-403-0973. Stephen Ventnor says, I'm going over on the field goals for both kickers. That's an interesting prop. Both teams have very good defense. Could easily be a high-scoring game regardless, as you alluded to. High-scoring, but not a ton of TDs. 26-23 Chiefs. Stephen Ventnor first. I love the angle you took. It's the idea of we could still go over on the over-under, right? Because 26-23, that's 49. That's over 47.5. So Steve's already got the over. But I like the prop bet because what Steve is saying is that they're not going to score touchdowns every time, that they're going to have to kick some field goals. Now, remember, the Chiefs field goal kicker is way better than the 49ers. Harrison Butker is one of the best in the world. So if there's a field goal kicker who's going to miss a kick in this game, is there a prop bet for someone to miss a field goal kick? I feel comfortable saying the guy who will miss will not be Harrison Butker in this game. Cole from LBI chimes in. Actually, no, that was a little earlier in the day. See, I told you, you guys messed up my queue. You messed up my organization of the text here at 609-403-0973. Here's the other message that came in. It says, how can you pick against the Chiefs? It's from an anonymous texter. Says, how can you pick against the Chiefs? They're one of the best teams of all time. Do you really think Kyle Shanahan can win a game that he's never won? Well, the reason why I think they win a game they never won is because we never thought that the Patriots, unless you're an Eagles fan, would lose to the Eagles. Nick Foles and Doug Peterson were obviously supposed to be lesser than Belichick and Brady. Use Jeff from Motion City's analogy, anonymous texter. So if you are the 49ers, you got this elite roster. But as Casey Joyner said, 319 rushing yards allowed. How do you offset that? And he said, well, maybe you don't play such a fancy style of defense. So the last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, it was Robert Saleh. This time it's Steve Wilks. Can Steve Wilks use the last 2 weeks to clean up that rush defense? Because as Casey Joyner said, Andy will run the ball if he has to. Now, to the question about from Jeff from Ocean City, prop bets. To me, I lean into the anytime score number. I really like the 49ers to score a touchdown at some point in this game. And I don't know. I know Christian McCaffrey is the odds-on favorite to score a touchdown in this game. I don't know if he actually will, to be honest with you. I think the Chiefs will be over-prepared for McCaffrey, right? So I'm thinking that you are more likely to see a Deebo Samuel touchdown in this game. I see the number at plus 140 at a lot of books. I think this might be a Deebo game. The 49ers are going to get some scoring out of Deebo. I really do think that. And then I do think that another number I like in this game, I like the Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions. Sam Laporta was all over the field against the 49ers defense. Kelce should have a monster game. And if the Chiefs win this game, frankly, I don't think Patrick Mahomes should be MVP. I think it might be Travis Kelce. If the Chiefs win the game, I think Kelce might be the MVP. If the 49ers win the game, I think it will be it'll be Brock Purdy. I think that people don't realize that there's one major flaw in the Chiefs defense. And that major flaw in the Chiefs defense is that for as amazing as they have been this year, one of the best defenses in the NFL that we've seen a long time with them, they had one flaw this year. They're not a team that gets a lot of turnovers in the passing game. They were one of the 5 worst turnover teams against the pass this year in the NFL. And considering the fact that they were also 18th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed, could this be a game where if Brock Purdy just manages the game, doesn't try to get out of himself, right? And says, I know this team is not big on turnovers. I know that if I don't force the ball, I can beat this team. So if I was to make a parlay out of this game, I like Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions. I like the over in the game, 47.5. And I would say I like Deebo Samuel anytime touchdown. I think that trifecta should get you a nice little value at your favorite sports book. All right, thanks to Casey Joyner. Thanks to Claressa Shields for joining us here on Game Night on 97.3. That was a pleasant surprise. You know, I was at Claressa Shields' first 2 MMA fights, one in Atlantic City, one down there in Hollywood, Florida. So I know the kind of work she puts in, and that'll be it might be the, no offense to the UFC, PFL versus Bellator might be the best fight card of the year in terms of mixed martial arts. February 24th, pay-per-view, ESPN Plus and DAZN. Sixers basketball coming up next. I mean, Buddy Hield will make his debut tonight. You can listen for that coming up next time. The guest on the call right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Sunday, the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City.
For those who are still watching on the YouTube side, I just wanted to say something really for a moment here. I'm glad that I got the answer out of Claressa Shields. I did about young women in Saudi Arabia, because, you know, one of the elements of Black History Month, and for those who don't know, I'm a history major. Okay. So I'm saying this as, for lack of a better term, kind of an expert. Okay. One of the things that people don't realize about Black history is that Black history is not Black history without the women of Black history. You know, women's history is very interwoven with Black history. And I was really mad recently because I was out at, I was at the gym, okay? And somebody had a poster up about Black History Month. And nowhere on the poster was Harriet Tubman. And I was grossly offended. And I remember saying to a friend of mine who, you know, she herself is, you know, she's a Black woman. And I remember saying to her that, you know, how can you have a poster about Black History Month and not have Harriet Tubman up there? And it made me remind of when Morgan Freeman said that there shouldn't be a Black History Month, that there should actually be instead just American history is part with Black history and synonymous with each other. We have become a society that, because we have such recency bias, we don't remember anything that happened in the past. You know, sports is supposed to be where the best of us thrive, where it's a meritocracy, right? And, you know, we wouldn't have all the things if we did today if it wasn't for the people who came before, right? And, you know, I look at an event like PFL MMA going to Saudi Arabia, and all I can think about is how this event is a game changer, because now you are forcing an entire group of people who have been raised and trained, and it's not overtly their fault, but they are at fault for being closed-minded. They are trained due to culture and religion to be misogynistic. And I think it's a big deal that this young woman, Claressa Shields, gets the fight on this card. And she's actually the only women's fight on the card. Her versus Kelsey DeSantis. And it's a shame because there should be a PFL versus Bellator matchup when it comes to the women's champions as well. But it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. It's a conversation for another day. But I think that when it comes to sports and history, people are so quick to forget history. And so I'm hopeful this PFL versus Bellator does great because you're not just putting on a great event, but you're also making history in terms of Black History Month, women's history, MMA history, sports history. And I love that. I love storylines like that. And if anybody who's wondering what my favorite fight on the card is, that's easy. Thiago Santos versus Joel Romero, two of the heaviest hitters in all of MMA. Dude, someone's getting knocked out in that fight. I'm Josh Hennig, at Josh Hennig on Twitter. Thank you for watching on my YouTube. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. I'll catch you next time right here on Josh Hennig's YouTube channel.